All right, so we're going to finish the first example. We've done the first 4 entries for the answers. Let's look at the last piece. So essentially what we've done is take the protein and figured out how much protein we were going to get for the sports mix. And we've taken and figured out how much protein we're going to get for the camp mix. That's these 2 entries up here that happened very neatly by multiplying these together. The second line that we just did, we took the carbs that we were getting from the dried fruit and nuts for both the sports mix and camp mix, and we basically have carbs for both types of trail mix or whatever you want to call them now. Okay? So the last part of this would be the fats. So we take the first row of this matrix times the first column. So 1 times 4 is 4. 52 times 2 is 104. So that'll make it 108. If we think about what we're actually doing, this was the fat content for dried fruits and nuts, and then we're multiplying it by how much dried fruit and nuts are in the sports mix. So this number is how much fat there is total in a whole bag of this stuff. And then if you want to figure out nutritional stuff, you'd have to break it down into how much out of the bag is a serving, but this is where you would start. And then to do the last entry, we're taking 1 times 1 and 52, which is the fat that's in dried fruit and nuts, by how much is in the camp mix. So we're going to multiply these together. 1 times 3 is 3. 52 times 3 is 156. So if I add those together, we get 159. This represents the fat for the camp mix. So each of these numbers is nutrition facts. Now, it's nutrition facts for like a whole batch of the stuff. So if you wanted to actually make a label to go on for how much, like if half a cup is a serving, you'd have to still divide that out. But this is what you would start with. Okay, so it says find the product and determine which mix has more protein and which mix has more fat. So everything in this column, because of the way that we set it up, is the sports mix. And this one is what they're calling the camp mix. And then down the side, because of the way that this is all set up, we have protein, carbs, and fat. So we could very quickly answer these questions if you just kind of put the labels back on. You could make it back into a table at this point, and all of your information is there. And I hope you guys can see how this could apply to computer programming. If you had it set up like this, you could put in different information and it would automatically know to multiply it, and you could get your nutrition facts out very quickly by setting up a very simple program. Multiply, add, it would know what to do. Or if you just tell it it's a matrix and say multiply matrix n by g, now with object-oriented programming you could actually do a lot of that and it would do it for you. All right, so it says find the product in G. So which mix has more protein? Look here. Here's our protein. Camp mix. So camp mix has more protein. And then it says which mix has less fat. So here's fat. Sports mix has less fat. All right, so coming down here, we have a different problem. I'll give you guys a second to finish writing. I probably am rushing a little bit, but we're going to look at another way that you could set things up to deal. Huh? Yeah, this is all, I went ahead and glued mine in. And I cut the middle out just to make it fit because there was a lot of white space in the middle for some reason. I think I cut and pasted this onto the paper and I just wasn't thinking about space. So down here, we're still actually looking at the same problem, but they're going to change it a little bit. It says suppose that 1 serving of the dried fruit contains 2.9 grams of fiber, and 1 serving of the nuts contains 1.4 grams of fiber. Rewrite matrix n to reflect this additional information. So your matrix n that we had up here, we just had the protein, carbs, and fat. What we're going to do is just add one more line. So if we rewrite it, matrix N now is going to look like you've still got the 320 for the protein, you've still got the 6521, the 152, and then we're just adding, so I have to make sure I'm in order. This is dried fruit and this is nuts. So the dried fruit has 2.9 grams of fiber and the nuts have 1.4 grams of fiber. So you're just adding an additional row to add the fiber onto things. So that's part A. And then it says find the new product in G. Now we've done most of the work already, so we're not going to redo that. We're just going to copy a bunch of it down. So this is N. I'm just going to write G again so I can have it all on the screen. So G was still 4, 3, and 2, 3. And this was the servings of dried fruit and nuts for both types. So when we do the product, we already have the first 6 entries. So we could copy that down from what we had above. And then the only part that we would still have to do is multiply this last line for fiber with these and put those last couple of numbers in. It's pretty straightforward. We're just adding on a new piece of information. So, and I think I'm just going to write the workout to the side since there's just a couple of them. So you would take 2.9 times 4, and I don't have this work written down, so I'm going to grab a calculator to make this fast. So 2.9 times 4 is 11.6. So 11.6 plus 1 point, hang on, so did I do that right? Yes, that times this. And then this then times this, 1.4 times 2. So that's plus 2.8. If we add those, we get 11.4. So this would be the fiber for the sports mix. We now know how much fiber is in the whole thing.
I don't think you, yeah, 11.4.
Did that, oh, 14.4. I left a number out. Sorry, 14.4, thank you. And then for the next line, we have 3 and 3. So I take 2.9 times 3, which is 8.7, and then 1.4 times 3, which is 2.8. And then we add those up, and it comes out like a, why does that not look right on mine? Did I mess up? 3 and 3, 8.7, it's 2.8, is 11. I messed up last year. I had the wrong number. This is, I'm pretty sure it's right, unless you guys see a mistake. So I just had a mistake in last year's notebook that nobody caught. All right, so which mix has more fiber? So remember they're in order. This is sports, and this is the camp mix. Sorry, I didn't write camp, I wrote cam. So sports has more fiber. So sports has more fiber.
Where are you at?
So, just down here. Sorry, I went off the screen. So, the sports mix, I should say mix, has more fiber. So, when we think about what matrices are, they're not really anything super complicated. They're kind of like a table for holding information that we don't have labels on, that can do a lot of calculations really quickly. And when we start getting into some of the more complicated stuff we're going to do with them, I will show you how to do some of the math you did the first 3 years of high school faster with the matrix. There are some really cool things that you can do that make other things easier.